In TP Gateway, for grant submission process, there will be some disbursement criteria and submission deadlines that the TPs will have to follow through. And these are the things that the system will actually be picking up to check as a pre-disbursement check. Okay, so in short, you will hear there's a lot like pre-D check. Okay, so it's called pre-disbursement check. So these are the things that systems will be checking just to make sure that to determine whether or not this grant should be paid out or not. Okay. So first of all, this is a criteria that TPs need to follow through in order to perform the rest of the grant process, and that is to create the cost runs as well as the cost run session. So we strongly encourage TPs to actually create this before the cost run start date. So for example, if their cost run is starting on 1st of January, then they need to make sure they create it before that. Okay, so why before the cost run start date? I will touch on that later on when I go to the cost run tile, because it is much simpler to create the cost run before the start date. And after the cost run start date has lapsed, TP can only use the upload function to upload the an Excel file to create the cost run. And that method is a bit more confusing for some of the TPs based on our experience when we gone live with SSG TPs. So it is really highly recommended that they create a cost runs via the user interface. And to do so, they need to make sure that they create it before the cost run start date. Okay, so only after they have set up the cost runs, then they can submit the trainee enrollments. Okay, so trainee enrollments, they need to make sure they submit this by 45 days or 105 days after the cost run start date. Okay, so this is the submission deadline. If they submit it after the deadline, then these enrollments will be considered as late enrollment and the grants shall not be disbursed. And on top of submitting the enrollment before the deadline, the TPs also need to ensure that they update the enrollment fee collection status to fully paid, and this must be done within 120 days from the cost run end date. Okay, so this is tied to the end date. Okay, so they must do it before within the 120 days. So that's about 4 months or so. Okay, and then next is attendance. So they need to make sure that the trainees have met at least 75% of attendance. Okay, if they do not meet 75%, then this pre-disbursement criteria is considered to not have been met and the grant will not be disbursed. Okay, and of course, for attendance records, there is a method for them to submit to do the digital attendance taking, which is automatically sync and TPs don't have to upload anything else. But if they don't opt for that digital mode, they will then have to submit the attendance records manually, and they will then need to take note of this submission deadline, which is 45 days or 105 days after the course run ending. Okay, and lastly, for assessments, they need to make sure that the trainee has passed the assessment. Okay, so this is applicable for courses with assessment. So they also need to make sure that they submit these records within 45 days or 105 days after the course run ending. So these are the pre-disbursement checks that the system will actually be checking through to determine whether or not a grant should be disbursed or not. Okay, so now I'll run through how TPs can create their course runs, and do note that course runs as well as the sessions are mandatory. If not, they won't be able to go through the rest of the grant process. Okay, the reason is because without a course run, they won't be able to submit enrollment, because when they are submitting the enrollment, they have to select what is the course run that they are submitting this enrollment for. So they need to set up the course run first. And to mark attendance, they need to also create the course run sessions so that the system will be able to know which session this attendance is for. So hence, this is mandatory. And if they don't create this, they can't proceed further with the grant process. Okay, so there are two methods to create the course run. Okay, one is creating via the user interface, which we highly recommend because there will be instant validation of the fields that the TPs entered. Okay, but the downside is that they can only create future dated course runs and course run sessions. So if let's say the course run is starting tomorrow, they can still create it via the user interface. But if the course run has already started yesterday, then they can't create it using the user interface anymore. And if the course run is starting today at 4 p.m., they can still do it now because it's 3:52 now. But once it passed 4 p.m., they can still create a course run, but they just can't create the first session that is starting at 4 p.m. So there will be some issues later on. The number of course runs will not be in sync. And in order to create that course run session that is going to start at 4 p.m., if they don't create it by then, they have to use the upload function, and it's very tedious and very prone for mistakes. So we highly recommend that TPs create it in advance, and so that they can use create it via the user interface, which is a lot simpler. And there will be some functions that repeat exception functions that they can use to populate their course run sessions. Okay. And the second method is by the Excel upload function. So it's basically downloading an Excel file, inputting the information, and then upload it back to the system. We would highly recommend TPs, especially first-time users, to use the interface. And of course, if their course run sessions are very regular, for example, it's every Monday, every Friday, then they can use the repeat function easily. Okay, so we will recommend the user interface for such instances. And for users who are very familiar with, they have already had a lot of experience uploading course runs, then they can use the Excel function. It may be faster for them because they can quickly populate the Excel and then upload it onto the portal. And of course, if their course run sessions are very irregular as well, it's not like a every Monday, Friday thing. Maybe some days, some weeks is on Monday, some days is on Tuesdays, and the timings are very different as well. Then using the Excel template might be easier instead of using the user interface, because they won't be able to use the repeat and exception functions if the sessions are very irregular. So I will first show how to use the course run tile and to create the course runs using the user interface. Okay, so they click on course runs. Okay, and then when they enter into this course run tile, they will be able to search for the course using this search bar here. Okay, so for example, today I want to create a course for Introduction to Marketing. Okay, I just have to click on the maintain course run link here. And then when I enter, because I have not created course run before, I click on the add course run button here. You can see that there's nothing that is created so far. Okay, so do not only future dated course runs can be created. Okay, and this is how it will look like. There will be two sections for this creation. The first one is to create the course run. The second one is to create the sessions. Okay, so let's start with the course run information first. Okay, so the course admin email will be pre-populated, and it will be pre-populated with the email address of the user who is trying to create this course run. Okay, so but of course, while it's pre-populated, it can be updated to somebody else. So for example, a user today is trying to create a course run, but actually the course administrator is someone else. I'm just creating it for another colleague. I can just update the email address of this course admin email to my colleague's email address. Okay? So this course admin will be the one who will receive notifications regarding this course run. For example, later on there will be like a link that will be sent to the course admin for digital attendance taking. Okay, so this link will be sent to the course administrator as well as the trainer. Okay, so this is the course admin email, and then there are other fields that they have to fill up, like the registration date, okay, and the course run start date and end date. Okay, so this field is very important because it will then dictate your this course run's submission deadlines. Okay, so for example, for course run start date, once they have indicated a date here, the enrollment submission deadline will be tagged to this date. Okay, so if it's 1st of January, then the submission deadline for enrollments will be 45 days or 105 days after 1st of January, depending on the type of course run. Then the end date will then dictate what is the submission deadline for attendance, assessment, and also for the fee collection status. Okay, so this is very important. They have to make sure that they put in the right dates, And subsequently, after they have submitted the course runs, they can come back to update this date. So as long as the date has not passed, so if let's say using the earlier example, 1st of January is the original course run start date. And then I know that I'm going to defer this course run to February. Just have to come in before 1st of Jan, so by like this 31st December, to come in to update this to the deferred date, then this will be fine. But once the date has passed, they won't be able to update it anymore. Okay, and then using another example, what if they decided to bring forward, instead of starting in 1st of January, they want to start on 30th of December. Okay, so they have to make sure that the date, they have to make sure they update it before 30th December. Okay, so the date, because they cannot backdate using the user interface. So if let's say they want to bring forward, they have to make sure that they update this before the updated start date as well. So whichever is earlier. So the rest of the details are optional, but whatever that the TPs fill in here will be reflected on the MySkills Future directory. And then trainees, when they are shopping for courses on the portal, they will be able to see all this information that the TPs have entered. This is still on the same page, but scrolling down further because the page is a bit long. Okay, they will have to also indicate the mode of training. So there are multiple mode of trainings that TPs can select under this dropdown. Okay, there are like other options like async, e-learning, on-the-job training, assessment, etc. Okay, so just select what is the default or the main mode of training, which usually is classroom. Okay, there can be also other default mode of training. Just select the one that is the main mode of training that TPs have indicated in the course application. Okay. And then they can also add trainers. Okay, so the trainers is an optional field they can add in because some trainees may want to know who is the trainer for that particular course run. Okay, so they can add the profile so that trainees know who is going to be training them. Okay, and then the trainers, if they are added into this course run, they will also receive the email containing the link to the QR code for attendance taking. So then the course admin don't have to separately forward the email to the trainer because the trainer would also receive the same email. So then the next one is also to include what is the venue of this for this particular course run. And if let's say this course is actually an online course, then what you can advise the TPs is just to put in the TP's registered office as the venue. That's fine as well. Okay. So after this page is done, click on continue. Then we'll move on to the next tab, which is the course run schedule to create all the course run sessions. Okay, so we click on this add sessions button. Okay, then we will see this. Okay, so there will be things like what is the course run session start date and end date? What's the start time, end time? What is the mode of training? The venue, you can just copy from the primary venue that was keyed in earlier on. But if let's say for certain sessions, the venue is different, maybe it's a different training room, for example, they can also key in the room name, unit number. Okay. And then at the end, there's also like a repeat and exception function that they can make use of to populate the course run session. So I will show you how you can use this function later on in a video demo. Okay, so after they have populated all their course run sessions, it will be shown in a drop-down list like that. Then once they have confirmed, they can submit run. But anytime after they submit, they can always come back to make updates to like the course run sessions, course run details, as long as the course run the date has not lapsed. So for example, if they are updating the date for a particular course run session, for example, they want to update the 29 September one. They just have to make sure they come in to update this before 29 September 10 a.m. Okay, they can still update it at 9:45 a.m. on 29 September. Okay, but they can't update it once this course run session has started. Okay. So after they submit, then they will see this on the page. Okay, they will be able to see that this is the course run ID. Okay, there's 6 digits here, 226492, a bit small, but it's here. Okay, and then also there will be the QR code link for attendance taking. Okay, so this code will also be sent to the course admin and the trainer indicated in the course run, and it will be sent 3 days before the course run start date. Okay, so for example, this course run is supposed to start on 24th of September. Then the link, the email will be sent on 21st of September to both the admin and the trainer. But anyone else, as long as if let's say you don't receive the email, you can always come back to this course run tile to retrieve the link. Okay, and this link will remain the same throughout the entire course run. So this course run can have like 10 sessions. Okay, and the link will remain the same for all 10 sessions, but the QR code within the link will just refresh itself with every session. Okay. And do note that once the course run has been successfully created, there will be still some time that's required before this course run information is synced to the other tiles like enrollment and assessment. Okay, the reason is because the system will need to take some time to run the timer and fetch all these course runs from this tile to the enrollment and assessments tile. Okay. So actually, it's the timer runs every 15 minutes or so, but sometimes due to like a high volume of course runs being created at the same time, the system may have a backlog to clear. So then to keep it safe, what we advise TPs is that maybe sometimes they need to wait up till 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Okay? But if let's say the volume is low, the timer actually runs pretty regularly. I think it's about 15 minutes or half an hour max. So it's just that there is some waiting time. It's not like they create it and then they go to enrollment tile, they can straight away enroll. They actually need to wait for a while. Okay, so this is just a point to note. Okay, because some TPs, they may call in and they think that it's a system error. They may think that, hey, I create a course run, I have the course run ID. How come I can't submit the enrollment? How come they're telling me that my course run ID is invalid? Then for when you receive such inquiries, you can check with them, oh, when do you create a course run? Did you just created it? And then if the answer is yes, maybe what you can do is tell them to just wait for like 1 or 2 hours to check whether or not the course run is now reflected in the enrollment tile. Okay. So now I'll show you a video demo of how to create the course runs with the user interface. So this video demo will show you a bit more. Okay, so earlier on I shared the steps. Come in, you type the course title, search for it. Okay, and then once you found it, click on maintain course runs, add course run. Okay, so under this course run information page, okay, to fill in the registration period. Okay, what is the course run start date? Okay, the course run end date as well. So the deadlines will be, the deadline for this course run will all be tied to the course run start date and end date here. Then the rest of the fields are optional. Okay. And then these are the list of mode of trainings that the TP can select for this course run. So I'm going to keep this as classroom. Okay, and then now to add the trainers. So if let's say the TPs have already had a library, like an existing list of trainers in their library, they can click on existing, and then they just have to select the corresponding trainer for this course run. But if this is a new trainer, then they can select new, and then they fill in the trainer information. So the name, the email address, okay, some description of this trainer, what's the qualification level. Okay, I'm going to skip through all this because it's just the trainer details. Okay, add the qualification, put in the experience, etc. Okay, oh, sorry. Okay, then they can select, then there is this option for them to add trainer information to the training partner profile. So once they add this trainer to the library, next time they can skip through, filling out all these fields and just select the trainer to be included in the course run. Okay. Then So now the trainer is added, okay, it's reflected here. Okay, then they can continue to add in the venue. Okay, so this will be the primary venue of this course run. Okay. So after adding the venue, they can save and continue. Okay, so there will be a prompt to just remind them that they need to create the sessions. Okay, so now this is the more tedious part because each course run, most of the course runs would have like multiple sessions. So we want to try to find a way that is easier for the TPs to populate. So what we can do is to make use of this repeat function. So this is very useful if, let's say, the TP, the course run has a very regular schedule. So in this case, I'm going to show you how a TP can create a course run that happens on every Monday and Wednesday. Okay, so I select weekly to repeat weekly, and then if it's like every week, I just keep this as 1. But if it's every other week, then I can select 2. Okay, so then it will skip 1 week. Okay, then I select the days. Oh, sorry, it's not Monday and Wednesday, it's Wednesday and Friday. Okay, so I just select the days of the week. Okay, so what it means that I'm trying to use this repeat function to create sessions on every week on Wednesday and Friday. Okay, so after I set this repeat function mode, I can then scroll back up and indicate the start date and end date. So this start date and end date will be pre-populated with the course run start date and end date that was indicated in the previous page, but TPs can update this. Okay, so if I leave this as it is, it just means that what the system will be doing later on is it will create sessions for me every Wednesday and Friday within these 2 weeks. Okay, so from 19 May to 2nd June, 1 session every Wednesday, 1 session every Friday on this session start time and end time. So now maybe I will indicate 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Okay. Then I can keep the mode of training, and then the venue, I can also copy from the primary venue. Okay. So then this is done. If, let's say, between this period, there is a public holiday and there's no class, we can also use this exception function. So if I click on this, then they will just ask me to select the date where the system should not create a session. So that can be done as well. But if not, I can click on populate. And then what you will see is the system has already helped to populate 1 session every Wednesday and Friday between 19 May to 2nd of June from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. Okay, so I can still edit the session because just now I'm trying to create it in bulk. So some of the sessions, the mode of training might not be correct. So what I can do is maybe the last session is supposed to be an assessment. But then because I created in bulk, I have to select mode of training as classroom. Okay, I can come in to edit and change it to assessment. And then I just update it and save. I can still delete sessions, etc., or add more sessions. If not, if I'm satisfied, I can click on submit run. Okay, and then it will be saved and I'll be directed back to the main page where I'll be able to see the course run ID, the QR code for attendance taking, etc. Okay, now I'll move on to the second option, which is to create it using the Excel Outlook function. It's the same thing. We'll go to the course run tile. Instead of searching for the course, we can actually click on the Upload Course Runs button here. Okay, and then we can download the file template. Okay, so in the Excel template, there will be some instructions that TPs can refer to and follow. Okay, and then they just have to make sure that they follow the format, make sure that if it's mandatory, they key in the mandatory fields. Don't leave any fields blank if it's mandatory. Okay, then once they have saved, they have completed the file. Okay, then they can save the workbook as Excel file and then upload it back to the system. Okay. Then once they upload, the system will then populate and show them what they have inputted in the Excel file. If let's say there's no formatting errors, all fields are filled in, okay? And then if they are satisfied, after they check through the details, they can then publish cost run. Okay, then the cost run ID will be shown. Same thing that happened when we tried to upload, when we tried to create a file or cost run using the user interface. Okay, so now I will show you in a video demo, which is easier to actually illustrate. Okay. So I click on upload cost runs, download the file template. Okay, so in this instance, I actually already, in this video demo, I've already populated the data. Okay, but when the TPs download the file template, what they will actually see is the template will consist a lot of cost reference numbers here and the cost title. A and B will actually be filled up for them with all the courses that they have in the system that is currently active. So what the TPs have to do, first of all, is to actually delete the courses that they are not creating course runs for, because maybe there's like 100 of courses that they have. They have to delete all the courses and just retain the particular course that they are creating the course run for. So in this example, in this video demo, I'm creating a course title called Introduction to TP Gateway Level 1. Okay, so I will just retain this line item and then I'll fill up the remaining fields. Like all these fields are what you also saw on the user interface. So like the registration opening date, closing date, course run start date, course run end date. So unlike in the user interface, we have to make sure the date is future dated. For this instance, for upload of course runs via Excel, they can put a backdated date. It doesn't have to be future dated. Okay. So all the same fields are shown. Okay, course admin email will also be populated with the user's email address. Okay, and then the venue as well. So basically, it's the same fields, and the ones in red are the mandatory fields. Okay, and then you will notice that for course run sessions, all these are not mandatory, not marked as mandatory. The reason is because we do allow TPs to upload course runs without creating course run sessions. But it is very important to note that although they can just upload the course run without sessions, eventually they need to make sure that their course run sessions are created. If not, they won't be able to take attendance. Okay, so this is very important. It's not marked as mandatory on the system, but it is actually mandatory for grant processing. Okay, so if they want to also upload the sessions together with the course runs, they just have to put in what are the details for each of the sessions. So if they are creating multiple sessions, so in this example, I'm creating 2 sessions in this course run, I will just have to make sure I have 1 line item per course run session. Okay, and when I'm creating when I'm creating the second session for this course run, I have to make sure that my columns A all the way to column R, I just copy and paste. Okay, I have to make sure that they are exactly the same details so that the system, when I upload this Excel file, the system is able to identify that I'm actually trying to create 2 sessions under the same course run because all the information from columns A to R are the same. If any of this information is different, so for example, under venue, instead of room 1, in the second line, I put room 2. The system will identify these 2 line items as separate course runs because the venue is different. Then what will happen is the system will actually create 2 course runs and each course run will have 1 session each, okay, the corresponding session. So I need to make sure, the TPs will need to make sure that it's exactly the same so that they will create these 2 course run sessions under 1 course run. Okay. So it's very important to note for them to just copy and paste columns A to R for the remaining 9 items. So they just populate all these fields, okay, follow the file format, follow the field format, it's all indicated. When they click on the field, they will see the instructions, okay? And then when they are ready, they upload the template, okay? And then the system will check for any formatting errors, whether all the mandatory fields are updated, and if the formatting is correct, Then they will populate the details, and the TP will be able to check to make sure, okay, that everything is created correctly. And if it's okay, then click on Publish Course Runs. Okay to submit. And then it will be saved successfully, and then they will see, they will go back to the main page, and they can go and just double check that it's really created by searching for the course and then looking for the course run that they just created. So the reason why this is very this is a bit more tedious, although it looked very simple from the video, is because the Excel file is really long. If you see just now, there's like probably about 40 to 50 fields. And if let's say they key in any of the fields from columns A to R incorrectly, the system will actually create like multiple course runs, or like there's a lot of formatting errors that may be flagged out as well. So that's why a lot of TPs actually experience some frustration when it comes to uploading via Excel, and which is also why we strongly encourage them to create their course runs via the user interface before the course run start date. So at least, as and when they are filling up a field, if it's incorrect, the system will actually prompt them immediately. Then they know exactly this error is pertaining to this particular field. After they created the course runs, of course, they can edit the course runs. What they need to do is they just have to look for the edit button. And course runs can be edited as long as the course run has not ended. So once the course run has already ended, they won't be able to edit the course run anymore. Nothing inside the course run can be edited. Okay, but if let's say the course run has started but not ended, they can still edit, but what they can edit will be depending on what they are trying to edit. So for example, it has started, course run has started but not ended. Then they can edit the course run end date because the course run end date has not passed. But they won't be able to edit the course run start date because the course run start date has already passed. So as long as the original date has not lapsed, they can edit those information. And of course, the other information like description, etc., those qualitative one can be updated. Okay, and if let's say they edit and they want to add in new course run sessions, they also can only add the future dated course run sessions, because for course run sessions, they also cannot backdate. Okay, if they want to add in new course run sessions that has already passed, what they need to do is they need to use the upload function, and that one is very painful because to do that, they need to, when they are keying in columns A to R, the course run information, they have to make sure that what they key in is exactly what is reflected on the existing course run that they have, so that when they upload to the system will also be able to identify that this course run information that they have put into this Excel matches exactly 100% to an existing course run. Then the system will then add in these additional sessions that they have inputted in the Excel into the existing course run. So as long as any one column is different, the system will create a brand new course run. It will not add on the backdated course runs to the existing course run that they have. And they can also delete course runs, but they can only delete course runs before the course run start date. Okay, so if they forgot to delete, what they need to do is they just have to make sure that they don't enroll any trainees into all these course runs that is meant to be deleted. And what we can advise the TP to do is to shorten the course run and make it end. So for example, they created a course run that starts from January and end in August, but actually they have already cancelled this course run. Okay, and they forgot to do so before January. What they can do is they can quickly edit the course run, update the end date to like maybe today's date, so that once today passed, the course run will become an inactive course run. Then they won't accidentally go and enroll trainees inside that course run, or trainees won't accidentally go and like register interest on My Skills Future portal as well. So some points to note, okay, course runs and course run sessions are mandatory. Otherwise, TPs cannot proceed with the rest of the grant process like enrollment, attendance, assessments, in order to obtain their funding. And then creation of course runs can be done via two methods. The first one is user interface, which we highly recommend. It's easier for a first-time user. And the second one is for Excel upload function, which is a bit more complicated because the Excel file is very long, but it's good because it supports backdated course runs in the event TPs forgot to create those sessions in advance. And of course, we always encourage them to create it as soon as possible. So once they create it, the good thing is they can start to receive enrollments as well. So they should start to create it before the course run start date as much as possible. Okay. So because the course runs is a tile, it's a function that we do receive a lot of TPs inquiries because it's a bit more complicated for them. So we have some videos that they can refer to when they are creating their course run. So they can refer to these videos. Okay, and at the same time, you also have a quick reference guide, okay, that they can also reference to. Okay. So this is it for course run.
So now that we have looked at course runs, I will bring you to the two tiles here, grant calculator and enrollments. Okay, so for the grant calculator, do note that this is an optional tile for TPs, and the main function behind this tile is to enable someone to find out how much grants a trainee will be able to get. So how to use this would be in the workspace, go to the grant calculator tile. Then when you click into it, it will prompt you to give course information and trainee details. So here, do note that only future dated course runs can be selected, meaning you'll only be able to calculate the estimated funding for a course run that hasn't started yet. So the user will also have to fill in trainee details, such as the ID type, the ID, and date of birth. So here, even though you see that it's indicated as optional, it's actually required because IBF does not have any baseline funding. So what we mean by baseline funding is funding that's applicable to any individual that applies for a course. So because IBF does not have baseline funding, your funding is usually dependent on your trainee details. So for that, your TP will have to fill in. Okay, also one thing to note is that this trainee details here, there'll be a validation check. So you must enter in actual information of the individual you are doing the calculation for. So you won't be able to enter dummy numbers because the system validates the ID as well as the date of birth. And if these details don't match, then there'll be an error message that pops up. Okay, so after inputting these details, your grant calculator will then show you the amount of training grants that's applicable for the individual. So as mentioned, trainee details are required because you don't have baseline funding. So if the trainee information is not provided, then here you will see that your net fee will be same as the original course fee, and there will be no funding shown. But if your trainee's information is provided, then the grant calculator will verify the trainee's funding entitlement against the grant schemes available to give you the grant amount and net fee for the trainee. So in the grant fee summary page, you will also see this table which shows you what the individual is eligible for. Here there are three categories: the absentee payroll, trainee allowance, as well as skills future credits. So take note that the first two here are SSG's own funding schemes, and they won't be applicable for your agency. What will be applicable for you would be the last one, skills future credits. Okay, so some individuals, they may want to use their skills future credits as payment. So here, if the system indicates a yes, it does not mean that the trainee has sufficient skills future credit. So here, the table only shows the eligibility for skills future credit, which is dependent on their age group and whether they are Singaporeans. So the trainee will have to check for himself how much credits he has in the My Skills Future portal. Okay, so that's for the grant calculator. And after trainees have decided to enroll for the course, the trainee provider can then begin the enrollment process for them. Okay, so there are two methods to submit your trainee enrollments. The first would be through single enrollment, which is adding enrollment records one at a time. So this method is recommended if there are not many trainees to be enrolled, or if your enrollment submission deadline is approaching. Then this option is preferred because there's an instant validation and processing for each of your enrollment record. And the second method would be through the bulk enrollment upload method. And this multiple enrollments can be created across different course runs, but note that they must belong to the same course. And this method allows you to do so in a single upload. Okay, this is done through inputting the information into an Excel file, which will be validated upon your upload. So do take note here that additional processing time is required because these enrollment records need time to be processed. So this method is recommended in the case that there are multiple trainees to be enrolled. But again, the user have to factor that there's sufficient time before the submission deadline because there's time required to process the Excel. And if there are formatting errors, then the errors will have to be rectified, and that takes some time. Okay, so in the next few slides, I will run through more details for these two options. Okay, so starting off with the single enrollment, you can come here by first clicking into the enrollments tile. You'll then be brought to this page where you'll be able to view the status of current enrollments. So at the top, you will see two buttons, Add Enrollment as well as Bulk Upload. So for single enrollment, click on Add Enrollment. And when you click into it, to enroll the trainee, there will be a form that you have to fill, which requires trainee details such as ID and date of birth. So here, if the trainee has incomplete date of birth information, you can put in 01 for the appropriate day or month fields. So incomplete date of birth information, what it means is that some individuals in the older generation, they may not know their birthday. They don't know the day or the month, only the year that they are born in. So for this, in their ICs, there's no day or month. There's only the year. So these individuals inputting 01 in the system will do for them. So if inputting 01, it won't be applicable if the TP just didn't gather the information from the trainees. And because as mentioned earlier, the system does do validation checks. Okay, so when all this is filled in, then the user will click on Submit Trainee, which will bring them to the next page. And in this page, there will be some gray fields that are already populated based on the input previously. So here, the users are prompted for more information, as you can see, the email address or contact number. Okay, so further down the form would be fields such as cost, cost fee discount. So cost fee discount, this can be decided by the training provider. So cost fee discount, say for example, a training provider, they have decided to give a discount for early birds who sign up before a certain date. So he can then key in the discount amount here. Okay, and also sponsorship type that you see on the right. So sponsorship type, there are only two options, either the individual sponsorship or company sponsorship. Okay, so if the employer is sponsoring the trainee, then it will fall under company sponsorship, and the form would then require you to fill in the employer's UEN. So do take note here that once the enrollment record has been created, the sponsorship type and the employer UEN, it can no longer be amended. So the details have to be accurate here. Okay, so other fields in the form would include enrollment fee collection status. So here there are several stages: pending payment, partial payment, full payment, and cancelled. So upon enrollment, the value of the fee will naturally be pending payment by default. And for the TP to receive their full funding amount eventually, the trainee's fee collection status must be updated to full payment within 120 calendar days from the course run end date. Okay, so finally at the end of the form here, you will see the course fee grants and the trainee's payment details in terms of net fee. So as you can see in the table, say for example, the course fee is $1,000 and the individual is eligible for $700 funding. The net fee for the individual would then be $300. Okay, so if there's a discount that was given, then at the top, what you will see would be the discounted cost fee. So say, for example, the discount was $100, then the discounted cost fee at the top, here you will see it will be $900. And the funding later will then be calculated based on your discounted fee, meaning 70% of funding will give you a funding amount of $630, and the net fee that the individual will then have to pay would be $270. Okay, so the individual will pay the net fee amount directly to the TP, and when payment is received and updated to full payment on TP Gateway, then funding for the grant amount will be processed to be paid out to the TP. Okay, when all is done, then you will click on Confirm Enrollment. You will then come to this page here, where you will see a green banner that says Enrollment record is created successfully. And an enrollment ID will also be created for the enrollment after the record has been successfully processed. Okay, so all of this will be immediate, which is the main benefit of using this single upload option. Okay. The second way of uploading enrollments would be your bulk upload. So again, here you can go inside the enrollment tile. So instead of clicking on add enrollment earlier, you select bulk upload. Okay, once you have selected that, then there will be a pop-up that requests for the user to select the course to upload enrollments for. So the user can select the relevant course from the drop-down list, searching from the course ID or the course name. And once selected, the user will be prompted to download the Excel template for bulk upload. So here, the user can click into download the attached Excel template. And after filling in this Excel, then she will drop the file into the space here. And once it has been uploaded, to then submit it. So in the Excel template, there will be two tabs. One is the Enrollment Upload Template tab and the Instructions tab. So the Enrollment Upload Template tab is meant for the TPs to fill up, and for guidance on how to fill it up, the users can refer to the Instructions tab. Okay, so once this has been filled up, the document should then be saved in CSV format before uploading into the TP Gateway. Okay, so if I could just quickly pull up the Excel template here. Okay, so as mentioned, there's an instructions tab which will guide you to fill in the enrollment template tab. Okay, so more importantly, the enrollment upload template tab. Here you will see that the fields are similar to the single enrollment form earlier. So you have trainee ID type, trainee ID, date of birth, etc. So just a few things to note here. Some of the fields here have drop-down lists. Okay, so you will see some of these fields have drop-down lists. So for these fields, you have to fill them in choosing from the drop-down. If you pick something else or you type in another value, then it may return to you as an error when you upload. Okay, so also note that there are mandatory fields and non-mandatory fields as indicated by the asterisk. And here you will see that trainee name. This is not mandatory if your ID type for the individual is NRIC or FIN. If it's others, then you will have to fill in the trainee name. Okay, so another thing to note here that is with this bulk upload option, in this Excel, you'll be able to fill in the course 1 code. So this course 1 code you will get from having created the course 1. So with this, you will be able to upload trainee enrollments across multiple course 1s in this Excel, but do note that they must all belong to the same course. Okay, so multiple course 1s in a single course, for example, Introduction of Marketing. Okay, so lastly, I would like to bring attention to this field here, trainee phone country code. Yeah, so just highlighting this because it's something that commonly returns as an error. So for this, users only need to put in the number. They don't have to put in the plus sign. So just put in something like 65. Don't need the plus sign because if not, it will return as an error. Okay, so yeah, that's it for the template. I'll return back to the deck. Okay, so when the Excel has been uploaded and processed, a user will see in the About Upload Enrollments page, which displays the records from the uploaded file. So here, enrollment records can be for different course runs for the same course as long as the course run ID has been specified. So this will be reflected in the first column that you see here. And when the records have been uploaded to this page, you can still make edits. The user can still make edits because all the fields here are editable except for the trainee name because this is derived from the trainee ID. Okay, so once done, then click Save. And you will go back to the enrollments page and the enrollment records will be sent for processing. Okay, so here you see a green banner similar to the single enrollment one that says that you have successfully submitted X amount of enrollments. But the difference here is that when you see this banner, though the enrollments have been submitted, they have not been created yet because the system takes some time to process the records. So the user or the TP can check back on TP Gateway to see if the records have been processed. And this would take approximately 1 to 2 days and they will receive a notification. So the notification will be seen on the bell button icon at the top right. So when the user clicks in, he will open the notifications page, which will show what notifications they have. Then he can click into the relevant notification, which is for this would be the bulk upload confirmation for enrollment records. So here there'll be further details as well as an accompanying URL link, and clicking into it will bring you to the enrollment records. Okay, so here you will see the Manage Enrollments page after clicking into the URL. And here you will be able to see which records were successful and which were not. So for the successful records, you will see that a unique enrollment ID will be created. And for the failed records, there won't be enrollment IDs created. You have to scroll to refer to the reason for failure column on the right to find out what went wrong to rectify these errors. Okay, so after for these failed records, for the user, he can rectify these errors and then upload on a separate Excel with just these records and submit it again. Okay, so going more into possible reasons for failure. So just some common ones that we have collated and categorized into a few categories. So the first kind of error would be mainly formatting and size errors. So here you will see that if the message mentions that the max record count exceeds the upload file, this means that more than 500 records were submitted and 500 records is the maximum. So the user will then have to ensure that not more than 500 records are in one upload file. Okay, secondly, a possible error could be the date of birth is in the incorrect format. So for this, the user will fix the format to ensure that it follows the date, month, year format. And lastly, the error could lie in the file being more than the size limit of 5 MB. So in this case, just ensure that the size is within limit. Okay, so that's for formatting errors. The second type of errors are the trainee and employer detail errors. So for this, if you get an error message that says, please check particulars of the trainee, then it could either be a mismatch of the ID, ID type, the ID is not valid, or your trainee ID and date of birth does not match. Okay, so in this case, the user can check the particulars of the trainee again. Okay, secondly, it could be invalid trainee ID type. So this probably means that something else was entered in this field that doesn't fall under NRIC, FIN, or others, as we saw earlier, but maybe something else was typed into the field. So in that case, the user can simply rectify it by ensuring that only values in the drop-down list are selected. And the next few error messages here that you will see have to do with valid contact country code, phone number, or email address. So for this, just have to check back with the details to ensure that they are valid, that there's no typo and what is given is accurate. Okay, lastly, other types of errors. So other types of errors could be that the course run does not belong to the course. So for this, the user will have to check the course run ID indicated to ensure that it belongs to the course. Okay, quite straightforward. The second one would be possibly invalid enrollment sponsorship type. So for this, again, only values in the drop-down list, individual or employer, are allowed. If it's any other value, then it will have to be rectified. Okay, the last message here would be that there is a missing field that is mandatory. So the user will just have to ensure that this field is filled up. Okay, so that's for the option to do the bulk upload of enrollments. So just to do a summary for this section, firstly, we looked at the grant calculator, for which the personalized grant amount is calculated based on the trainee information. So the main function of this is for your TP to see a quick summary of the grant amount, the relevant schemes and components when they enter in the trainee details. Okay, we also looked at the two ways in which TPs can enter trainee enrollments. So the first is single enrollment, where enrollments are created one at a time, but there will be instant validation and processing of your enrollment records. And we also just looked at the bulk upload, which is done via Excel. So this method allows your user to submit enrollments for the same course across multiple course months. But to take note that there is additional processing time, so the user choosing this method must ensure that the Excel records are well formatted so that they can successfully upload it. Okay, the last thing to note for this section is that TPs, they can start submitting their enrollment records from any time before the course start date to up to 45 days after course one start date for public course ones and 105 days after for in-house course ones. Okay, so we have come to the end of the second section here. Okay, so here we also have further videos and resources, user guides for you to refer to.